At face value, it is really hard to believe that when you have something that you really, really need and really, really want, the very thing that may be getting in the way of you getting what you want is you. It seems totally counterintuitive, but the reality is that we all have ways that we prevent ourselves from getting the very things that we want. In today's video, I'm going to reveal to you the #1 way that we get in the way of what we need and want, as well as what you can do to remedy the situation. I'm going to start this out by just telling you what it is, our protector personas. For most of you watching this isn't going to make automatic sense, so let me explain. People adjust and modify themselves according to the environment that they find themselves in, as well as the other people around them. This begins when we're children. We adapt to our parents' personalities, beliefs, wants, needs, likes, dislikes. We adapt to our culture. We adapt to the language we're taught to speak. We adapt to the schools that we're educated in. We adapt to the peers we end up with. We adapt to the society at large. And we especially adapt to traumatic situations that we find ourselves in. A simple definition of trauma is distress without resolve. What should stick out to you about this definition of trauma is that it could mean anything from an infant being weaned to chronic experiences where you end up feeling like your worth to others is only about the quality of your performance, all the way to, say, what happens at war or a high-speed car accident, right? Complex abuse. Trauma is something that happens in all demographics, across all societal classes, to people of any age, race, class, religion, or sex. There are so many types of trauma that a person can experience on this earth. Everyone has trauma. Everyone has experienced some kind of distress in their lifetime that is unresolved. Everyone has made adaptations to their personality as a result of experiencing trauma. When we experience trauma, we split our consciousness. It's an act of self-preservation. When we experience trauma, we create a split between the vulnerable self and the self that coped with that vulnerability so as to self-preserve in that specific situation. We then identify with the parts of ourselves that coped to self-preserve. These are the aspects that protected us. They allowed us to stay as far away from our vulnerability as we possibly could. For example, imagine that a child experiences like a blindsiding abandonment, one that they didn't understand. In that moment, the child may disidentify with the aspect of themselves that is confused, and that is terrified, and that is powerless, and that doesn't understand why. And to the opposite, develop an adaptation of figuring everything out and knowing everything that there is to learn about human behavior. This child believes that if they just knew everything about people, especially about human behavior, they wouldn't be blindsided anymore by people behaving in painful ways, and maybe he can even prevent such things from happening. This protector has developed to give him a greater sense of control within the context of his relationship with other people. Maybe this person goes on to be a counselor or a psychiatrist, surprise, surprise. This protector persona is the part of him that he is going to identify with. He's now going to think, this is me. Or to give you another example, let's say that a little girl grows up with a disengaged father, and as a result, she is not protected. She will feel exposed and without social care and afraid and maybe starved for safety. She may adapt by creating a persona that can fend for itself. She may adapt by developing a protector self that is domineering and that is independent and scrappy and that can rise to any occasion. Every person has protector personas, and they represent an adaptive strategy to the exact and specific unsafeties that they faced as a result of their unique life experience. They may be the thing that helped us to adapt to our life experience and survive those traumas, but there comes a point when they inhibit us. They prevent us from getting the very things that we are the most desperate for, and they prevent our personal expansion. This is especially true of our primary protector personas, our primary way of staying safe. So you can understand this better, I'm going to give you 3 examples. First, I want you to meet Julian. By the time that Julian was a teenager, he realized that there was nothing that he could do to get the people around him to feel good. His home was always a cesspool of conflict, and his mother was chronically depressed. His powerlessness to making things feel better emotionally led him to figuring out a way to escape from his own emotions, as well as everyone else's. Positive focus. Julian developed an adaptive strategy of only looking at the bright side. He crafted a Pollyanna self that was not interested in any negativity of any kind. The problem is, now Julian is in his 40s and he is desperate to find a compatible partner and especially to have children. After all, he's always wanted to have a family of his own. According to Julian, the last 3 women that he has been in a relationship with all just reached this point where they started to have issues and kind of just lost it and then just eventually left him. One even cheated with one of his best friends. He doesn't get why this keeps happening. Okay, but here's the thing. If you talk to all 3 of these women, you find out very fast that they all couldn't take the relationship anymore because they felt so alone and so judged in the relationship. Why did they feel this way? Because Julian's toxic positivity protector persona made it so that anytime they shared their true feelings, they were dismissed and even shamed for having those feelings and for thinking the way that they think. It's so negative. They started to feel like there was no space in the relationship for emotions or truth because Julian made it very clear that there was only one acceptable thing: positivity. They started to feel guilt and even shame for having negative feelings. On top of this, Julian turned into a gaslighter without knowing it. How did this happen? Whenever something bad happened, he would simply negate that something bad was happening and reframe it all. This caused 2 of the women to doubt their own sanity and to seek out a psychologist. On top of this, because Julian would not take any negative feedback seriously, he would not change any of the things that these women needed changed or adjusted in the relationship in order to feel good within the context of the relationship. He was fundamentally unresponsive. Julian is in a place where his primary protector persona is the very thing standing in the way of his deepest desire in life. Now it's time to meet Naelli. Naelli was raised in Compton, Los Angeles, an area plagued with poverty and gang violence. Naelli never knew her dad, and her mom was a meth addict. She really had to fend for herself. She developed this adaptive strategy of becoming masculine. She started to emulate the men who had the most power in her culture. After all, they were the ones that could make it in that environment, but those were gang members. So she started dressing in masculine clothes, acting tough, displaying a hard, rigid, aggressive kind of body language, as well as a threatening manner of talking. She took every responsibility on her own shoulders so as to avoid future calamity, right? She identified with a part of herself who could handle that life on the streets. The thing is, Naelli is desperate, and I mean desperate, for caretaking. She is desperate to be able to experience what some other girls that she sees at school have experienced. To feel safe and protected in a way where she can be feminine and soft and even playful, like she once was, a long time ago when she was very, very young. She often mocks the girly girls, but underneath that is an extreme jealousy of what they have that she doesn't. The thing is, the way her protector persona behaves, she is a magnet for men who want a woman who can fend for herself, so that they don't have to take on any responsibility for her. On top of this, because she takes responsibility for literally everything, she doesn't even register when people are putting pressure on her that isn't hers to carry. So she ends up carrying all of the weight for everyone in her life, at home, at school, at work. Because she signals that she is masculine, the very men who adore feminine women and who would absolutely caretake a woman don't have any interest in Naelli. They're in fact put off by her. And she does not make any of the choices that a feminine woman would make that would put her in a different position. A position to have the very experience that she wants so badly. She would have to make choices that send the message that she wants what she wants. Not choices that send the message, get away from me. I can take care of myself. For our third example, let's meet Miles. Miles was raised by a mother in a society that really embraced the women's rights movement. One tiny little problem with this is that Miles's mom hates men. So she took great care to raise her son up to be the exact opposite of any man that hurt her, that hurt women throughout history. She especially feels threatened by a man having any power. Miles adapted to his environment by becoming the epitome of a nice boy. He developed a protector persona that is super compliant, is always ready to please, one that's quiet and controlled, one that looks for leadership and is willing to follow, a persona that comes across as oh so weak, so as to disarm everyone around him. Miles needs and wants to make something of himself, and he's at a place where he has this opportunity to start a business with a friend of his. He has never been more excited about something in his entire life. But to be a success at this new venture and to make something of himself, he needs to be taken seriously. He needs to be able to lead a team. He needs to be able to talk in a commanding enough way that investors are willing to invest money and clients are willing to buy. This isn't happening. So let's fast forward. Miles clams up whenever he needs to talk. He lets other people take over. He looks for leadership instead of taking the lead, and so his team doesn't respect him as a leader. He doesn't set boundaries or play hardball, so he lets contractors get away with terrible things and agrees to contracts that he should never agree to. His friend, who is his business partner, is feeling like he's going to need to somehow get Miles the hell out of the business because Miles's behavior is a liability, and he just isn't able to be in a leadership position. Now, Miles's protector persona is the very thing sabotaging the thing he wants most in the world. Because our protector personas are the things standing in the way of what we want most and are therefore standing in the way of both personal and universal expansion, our protector personas will be broken one way or another. This is especially true now in this kind of universal pressure cooker dynamic that we are currently in. We will be snapped. Our protector personas will not work for us anymore. But seeing as how they are the thing that we're using to protect ourselves, this process of losing our protector personas is a deeply difficult and terrifying process. It is a process that will force us to face the very things that we are the most terrified of. We will be forced to be reunited with the vulnerable aspects of ourselves that we are hiding behind those protectors that we have been operating in the world with all along. Parts of ourselves that we lost touch with and even awareness of really long ago. What we can do is to get out ahead of this process. We can start to recognize the ways that we keep ourselves safe or successful and start to see how these behaviors that are associated with our adaptive strategies are in fact opposing what we need and want most. One exercise that you can do is to identify a trauma that you've experienced in your life. This should be a painful experience that happened in your life where you felt distressed and where there was really never any resolve to what happened. This could be something you judge as really, really big and or something you judge as small. It could be a one-time event or like a chronic experience. Next to the trauma, you're going to write down what you made that experience mean. What beliefs did you develop as a result of it? What decisions might you have made as a result of it? And then next to each one of those answers, you are then going to write down what changed about you and about your life as a result of that experience. Think about things like, did our personality change in any way? Did our behavior change in any way? Did you change what you did every day? Did we maybe adopt any coping mechanism? See if you can identify the adaptive strategy that you adopted and therefore identify a protector persona. And next to that, you're going to write down how the thoughts, the decisions, behaviors, and actions associated with that particular protector persona could be getting in the way of what it is that you want. You could do this with literally any adverse experience that you had that you can identify. Without rejecting or condemning this aspect of you, it is, after all, trying to keep you safe to the best of its capacity, in the very best way it knows how. You want to consciously work to change your perspective that that persona and its behaviors are keeping you safe and guaranteeing you success in life. And consciously start making different decisions and practicing different behaviors and taking different actions. Things that are more in alignment with what you are needing and with what you are wanting. If you would like to work directly with any protector personas or call forth any aspect of you that may be more aligned as an internal resource for getting what you need and want, you can do so using parts work. If you'd like to learn more about parts work, you can watch my video that's titled What is Parts Work and How to Do Parts Work. Also, it may really benefit you to understand these protector personas of yours better by watching another video of mine that is titled There is No Such Thing as Self-Sabotage. By consciously integrating the protector personas that are getting in the way of what you need and want, you will begin to align with what you need and want more and more. And when all of you is aligned with what you truly want, it tends to then become your lived experience. Have a good week.